Welcome to another episode of Chat Sports. Like you know, my name's Chad. Take a dive on sports, and welcome to the conclusion of the college football season. That's right, the national championships have been crowned. Congratulations to the Georgia Bulldogs. I knew they were going to win this game. However, I did not realize it would be the way it was. So that'll be a lot closer than that. I think a lot of people also kind of figured that. Georgia was making no exceptions. So, as I, excuse me, as I continue to go on through this bowl scenario, I'll go recap some of the bowls. I have the scores kind of rotate down here at the bottom of the games that played, and I did pretty bad in this bowl mania, but it's hard to determine who's going to show up, who's not going to show up. So, hey, it is what it is. But before I dive into all that, if you could give me a thumbs up, especially like content provider, really appreciate you two guys. It really helps promote this channel out. You also subscribe. A lot of you review my work, and I love you for doing that. Now, make you subscribe. Doesn't cost you a dime. That's me providing more entertainment value for you. Now, as the bowls are going through down here, I'll just highlight a few of them here and there to kind of a few of those aspects, and one of the ones I will kind of highlight is the Cure Bowl. That's between the two ranked Power 5, non-Power 5, Group of 5, excuse me. Let's get this straight here. Two Group of 5 conference members that were like 24th, 25th. They weren't going to get a lot of love. They both came into this game 11-2. And that's Troy taking on UTSA. Now, UTSA is not getting much love. I mean, they had a great year last year, and then this year stumbled a bit, but they still repeated as Conference USA champions. And with this game, I knew this was not going to be a good game for the Roadrunners. However, it was a lot closer than I thought it would be. A rare safety to start off the game with the first points scored by the Roadrunners. They had a 12-7 halftime lead, but then it was Old Troy that second half that just didn't look back. Harris for the Roadrunners still had that very good game. He only had 194 yards and barely completed 50% of his passes. But it was just Troy was just too much for him, and they ended up beating them 18-12. And then we had to Las Vegas for Oregon State taking on Florida. Now, Florida started the season against the Pac-12 to end the season against the Pac-12. I didn't pick them in the first game. I had Utah winning in Florida. Florida came out and said, nope, this is our swamp, so we'll defend it. Well, now they're playing out in the desert, and they dried out pretty quick because the Beavers had a field day. They were just way too much for Florida, and Florida couldn't get anything going until the very end where they finally got 3 points. But it was all Oregon State all day long. They demolished Florida 30-3. Another interesting one would be the Cincinnati Louisville game. That old school rivalry they have for the Battle of Keg and Nail just be a annual matchup in the old Conference USA days. And then the American, now you don't see it much anymore. Maybe you might see it now that Cincinnati is now a Power 5 program, or soon will be when they join the Big 12. So they might see that game be more advantageous, maybe. Sure where to work. And he went to Fenway. And there was a lot of intermingled storylines of this one as well, especially with the coaching. Especially since now the new Cincinnati head coach used to be the Louisville offensive coordinator. And I really thought Cincinnati would pull this one off, but Louisville was like, no. We'll throw out some new tricks, and I go see, and ended up rolling 24-7 in the confines of Fenway. SoFi for the LA Bowl, we had Fresno State taking on Washington State. Washington State, and they're one of these very decent programs out there in the Pac-12 that just can't seem to win the bigger matchups, but do come up with a good, solid squad. And Fresno State's one of the elite programs right now in the Mountain West, and sooner or later, probably will, continue to be up top. And Hayner was just too much for the Cougars on this one. Had 280 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mims was having a field day, over 200 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, as for Fresno State was way too much for Washington State. Beat him 29-6. Then we head out to the Mexico Bowl where BYU was playing against SMU. Now this one I was going with SMU on this aspect. I figured they'd be a little bit better than BYU. BYU just tends to they're very inconsistent really when it comes to playing decent programs. Yeah, most of the time they're on the losing end, especially this year. But they held their own. I mean, Mordecai didn't have that great of a game. Only just over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. You know, SMU was coming back towards the end. They were already down 24-10. They were coming back in the fourth quarter. They ended up scoring a very late touchdown, getting within 1 point. They decided to go for the win. Failed it. That was it. BYU, you know, they tried to onside kick it. Didn't work. And BYU was able to just do the victory formation and hold on to beat SMU 24-23. And probably one of the most weirdest dunkings out there was the Idaho Potato Bowl up there in Boise, Idaho, where it had San Jose State taking on Eastern Michigan. Now, with this one, I did go San Jose State because I figured they were a little better prepared. I didn't favor a lot of the MAC programs, and the MAC did quite well this bowl season. And the winner always gets dunked by a bucket of fries. But this one was all Eastern Michigan. They were just had a huge, scoring streak where they were just getting points unanswered left, right, and center. They were up 30-13 at half. That was all needed as the Eagles just rolled over San Jose State 41-27. Then we head to the Armed Forces Bowl out there in Fort Worth. They had Air Force taking on Baylor. I didn't get the Falcons much love in this one. I kind of expected Baylor to kind of get out of their slump, and I know Air Force can hang with some FBS Power 5 programs. I mean, they beat Colorado, which not saying much for this year's version of the Buffaloes. But I didn't think they'll have enough to take out on Baylor, especially with Shappen as the quarterback. But he had a horrible day, not even 200 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, as it was all Air Force all day long, all on the ground. Roberts had 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards of rushing. Air Force even had a bomb that you didn't normally see for the Academy to have a deep aerial attack the way they did. But when you continuously run, so often you'll get a receiver that can streak out and you can hit him in a deep pass. As Air Force rolled over Baylor 30-15, give them a 10-win season. Then we head to the Gasparilla Bowl, where it was Hartman's last game as a Wake Forest Demon Deacon. I gave them all sorts of praise on this game, and Wake was able to just steadily pace out and beat Missouri 27-17. Now Hartman is now QB1 at Notre Dame for his final year of eligibility. Grad transfer. So you see what he can do with that Irish offense that was pretty inconsistent this past year. Maybe having an actual passer in Hartman might change things. But congratulations to Wake Forest. Get a nice victory. Give them a nice 8-win season. Then just before Christmas, we'll head out to Hawaii, where the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders are taking on the San Diego State Aztecs. That's when I gave it to the Aztecs because I just think that they're just the better squad all around. Maiden had over 300 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. But that was it. They had the ability to pass around the rock like they could, but their defense could not hold back Middle Tennessee at all. As Middle Tennessee is able to hang on and beat San Diego State 25-23. And hopefully probably one of the last games over there at the complex in Hawaii until the Aloha Stadium, the new Aloha Stadium, is completed. You get the Guarantee Rate Bowl down there in Phoenix over there at Chase Field. Had the Wisconsin Badgers taking on Oklahoma State Cowboys. I was behind Wisconsin because Oklahoma State just at the end of the season just completely collapsed. And this is another example of that one, as Rangel just couldn't get anything going. And there was an interception. I mean, Oklahoma State was trying to come back. I mean, so let me just kind of back that up a little bit. Oklahoma State was trying to come back in the fourth quarter. Their defense finally showed up. They blanked Wisconsin, stopped them at 24 points. They're starting to come back. But a fourth quarter interception that was pivotal in that aspect sealed the victory for Wisconsin as the Badgers ended up winning 24-17. Gives them at least a 7-win season and a very kind of a disappointing year for the Badgers. And then we go down to Petco Park in San Diego, California for the Holiday Bowl. The 15th ranked Oregon Ducks take it on North Carolina. Mixon versus May. Nix. I keep saying Mixon as Bo Nix. I don't know why I keep mixing up his name. But this one actually went with North Carolina. I was giving May a little bit of the doubt. But it was a huge fourth quarter that's really kind of helped solidify. Oregon's defense stepped up. North Carolina defense also stepped up in this aspect. They're both kind of do what they had to do to kind of give their offenses a chance. And if it wasn't for a doinked extra point, that kind of sealed the victory for the Ducks as Oregon slipped past North Carolina 28-27. Just giving me another loss, a long line of them. One of the wildest bowl games out there goes to Liberty Bowl. It was a triple overtime affair between Kansas and Arkansas. But of course, when it comes to these two, this was actually, I went with Arkansas anyways. I mean, they started off hot early, but they could not sustain this type of offense. Jefferson was trying to do as much as he possibly could. Daniels was also just a phenomenal freak of an athlete. Over 500 yards passing with 5 touchdowns. I mean, every 100 yards he had a touchdown. I mean, that's ridiculous. But in the end, it doesn't even matter. No, I mean, Kansas had to come back from 18 down in the fourth quarter to tie this game, and they ended up doing that one. Send this into overtime. It took 3 frames to do it, but Arkansas was able to finally pull it off, 55-53. Probably one of the wildest finishes of the bowl season. Down in San Antonio, you had Washington taking on Texas. Now, Texas was heavily favored. Not by this guy. That one, Penix Jr. Ewers, he's been very inconsistent, but he still almost had 370 yards passing, but he only had 1 touchdown. Not having Robinson as your running back really took away a lot of the attack style for the Longhorns. Penix Jr. was just a very phenomenal way to throw around the rock as much as he possibly could. Togo Papa, I probably mispronounced his name, so I do apologize. He actually had over 100 yards rushing for Washington in a touchdown as the Huskies was able to maintain and hold on to beat Texas in their home state 27-20 to take the Alamo Bowl. The game between a pair of blue bloods, Florida State and Oklahoma, battled out in the Cheez Bowl out there in Orlando. And this one, I actually went with the Seminoles on this one. I thought they could outlast Oklahoma. Oklahoma was not quite the same team it is this year, maybe because of Williams and Riley both gone to USC. So they have to come up with their own identity once again. But this game went back and forth, and Florida State was able to outlast Oklahoma and beat them 35-32. And then we head down to the Gator Bowl, where you had the Irish, 21st ranked, taking on 19th ranked South Carolina Gamecocks. Buckner taking on Rattler. I went more Rattler, just because what South Carolina did towards the end of the season, especially knocking off Clemson and Tennessee, both 10-win teams. But it was not the case. They started off hot. I give South Carolina credit. They started off hot, 21-7 at the opening quarter. But the Irish defense started to finally show up, start clamping down things. The offense started generating drives, getting multiple scores per quarter. Buckner had over 270 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, as Notre Dame just continued to pour on the points and ended up beating South Carolina 45-38 give the Irish a rare bowl victory. And something to build on for next season. You know, Pine has transferred out to Arizona State. Buckner's still there. They brought Hartman's now coming in. So we'll see what happens with that one. And their recruiting class is actually one of the top ones in the country once again. So we'll see what happens with Notre Dame next year. Then we head to the Orange Bowl and Orange Bowl history when you had the Tennessee Volunteers taking on the Clemson Tigers. Both clubs sporting orange. This is out without Hendon Hooker. He's out. He'll be heading to the draft anyway, so he probably was sustained out of this one. But this was all Tennessee. I did not think it would be this one-sided because I actually bet with Clemson on this one. I thought Klubnik would be a better aspect. I mean, he had great passing yardage. He had 320 yards even. No touchdowns, 2 picks. Tennessee was just stellar in this game. Routed Clemson 31-14 for a Orange Bowl victory. Probably one of the more disgusting dunks in the bowl season. The Duke's Mayo Bowl out there in Charlotte, North Carolina. 2 former ACC not juggernauts, but opponents. There we go. Maryland taking on 23rd ranked NC State. Pretty ugly game on this one. Finley had 2 interceptions for Wolfpack. I mean, he couldn't find the end zone at all. You know, he almost had 270 yards passing. So once again, another quarterback that had enough prowess to throw the ball, find get the yardage, but couldn't make those key mistakes and couldn't find the key offense. And the winner of this game gets dunked with Mayo. Ugh. But Maryland ended up winning this game 16-12, an ugly affair. And I'll just go ahead and tap into the I'll save the college playoff bowl games here towards the last. Let's go ahead to the Sugar Bowl where you had Alabama taking on K-State. Alabama complaining they couldn't get into the playoffs. They thought they deserved it. Your 2-loss school, you had your opportunity, you blew it, go away. So all the seniors decided, nope, we're coming back. We're going to come and finish this season right. We're going to New Orleans, go in the Sugar Bowl, take on K-State. K-State, I figured, put up a fight a little bit longer than they did. I still with Alabama. Alabama was just too talented anyways. Bryce Young had a decent showing. The dude threw for 5 touchdowns, over 300 yards passing. He had more than a decent showing. Vaughn trying to do his best for the Wildcats. He had over 130 yards rushing, but he only found the end zone once. K-State made it interesting in the first quarter, up 10-7. That was it. The Tide rolled 45-20 to get them the Sugar Bowl. And then we go to the ReliaQuest Bowl, formerly the Outback Bowl out there in Tampa. You had the 22nd ranked Mississippi State Bulldogs taking on the Illini. And this one, I didn't give much to the Illini because I knew the Bulldogs are going in there for Coach Leach. They had a great helmet design. One side of the helmet had the pirate flag on it, in which Leach was considered a pirate. And they started their first drive was delay game, kind of late honoring of Coach Leach. Of course, Illinois did the right thing in not accepting the penalty, and they continued on. Mississippi State was just a little bit too much. I mean, Illinois was doing everything they could. They were stuffing Rodgers for most of this game. He couldn't get much going. He ended up getting a little over 260 yards and a touchdown. But it came late in the game, and Mississippi State defense did all they could. They held the Illini to 10 points. The Illini's defense just ran out of gas. It was the fourth quarter. They were up 10-3 and could not hold back Mississippi State. As Mississippi State ended up winning this game 19-10 on a scoop and score fumble, by the way. But that was it. Mississippi State closed out the season for a win for Coach Leach, and they can move on and build upon this what he started down there. Then we head to the Rose Bowl. We had Utah taking on Penn State. Now I looked at Utah. I was like, this is the year that the Utes win. But the roses in between their mouths. I mean, they had the rose in their helmet. That probably didn't help them at all, because Penn State was able just to steady pace them. And ended up just outdoing them in the end, and Penn State ended up beating Utah 35-21 behind 270 yards and 2 touchdowns of Clifford. And not to mention 120 yards on the ground by Singleton and his 2 touchdowns. The Nittany Lions close out the season with 11 wins. And probably one of the most shocking bowl games out there is the Cotton Bowl between Tulane and USC. I thought this would be USC all day long. I thought they would be way too much. I mean, Caleb Williams had a phenomenal day, over 460 yards passing, 5 touchdowns. But Tulane would not go away. Spears had 205 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. The Green Wave was just way too much for the Trojans. They just kept washing away. Anything that USC did, Tulane followed up. I mean, USC was up 28-14 at half. So you figured this game was well in hand by excuse me. Figured this game would be well in hand by the Trojans, but not the case. I mean, Tulane just kept battling back. I mean, it didn't matter what they did. It's like every time USA just tried to pull away, there's Tulane once again, just right behind them, knocking on the door. It's just phenomenal how the little school that could came back. I mean, they had to come back from behind. I mean, once USC went up 45-30, everyone thought, okay, this game's over. I mean, there's no way the Tulane's going to come back. They don't have the tenacity to do this, especially, after 4.5 minutes left. This is in the bag. And then, ensuing kickoff, Tulane returned it for 37 yards, put them in a nice position. And then they hit a nice 59-yard pass, almost got to the end zone. That's where Spears decided to put it in. There you go. Then it goes back to USC, but they fumbled the kickoff return and be able to jump on it. But however, ended up getting got on the 1 yard line, where then Tulane ended up getting a safety, put them down 45-39. So with 3:20 left, I mean, that's 9 points pretty damn quick within the minute. So once again, it was all Tulane, and they were just popping off. And I mean, yeah, they would do a complete pass, get sacked, come up with another big pass. I mean, it was just, they just kept going and going and going, and it was just unbelievable. They, scoring a touchdown, tying the game at 45. It was the extra point for the win, and they got it, and that was it. They tried some trickery at the end. It didn't work. Tulane upended USC to take the Cotton Bowl 46-45. Completely unreal. I mean, who would have thought that? Not me in 1,000 years, that Tulane would beat USC. But congratulations to the Green Wave in that aspect. And that leaves us with the college football playoff. And the first 2 games were close. Very entertaining, very exciting, down to the wire. Some of them didn't go the way I thought they would. So let's go ahead and kick this off with the Peach Bowl. Ohio State coming to hostile territory. because Athens, Georgia is right down the road from Atlanta. So it ended up being like a home game for the Bulldogs pretty much. And Ohio State actually was up early on these guys. I mean, it was 28 to 24 half. They couldn't do anything in that third frame as Ohio State placed 10 more points, came up 38-24. So everything is looking towards the Buckeyes knocking off the Bulldogs. Bennett wasn't having none of that. He ended up having almost 400 yards passing, 3 touchdowns total, as Georgia came from behind and knocked off Ohio State 42-21 to head back to the national championship for a chance to repeat. I had Georgia beating Ohio State anyways, so I was not surprised in this aspect. But now it's time to head to the desert in Michigan and TCU. And this one was a doozy between these two programs. TCU is the underdog in this one, and they were up early on Michigan, surprising them, leading them 21-6 at half. That third quarter was a wild affair where 44 points were scored, which is kind of unheard of. I mean, McCarthy was trying to do everything he possibly could, over 340 yards passing, 2 touchdowns overall. DeMarco had 150 yards for the Horned Frogs on the ground. And after, and the Michigan was trying to come back. I mean, TCU had their number most of this game, but Michigan kept coming back. But a botched snap ended it for Michigan as TCU beat Michigan 51-45, sending the Horned Frogs to the national championship. In an unprecedented aspect, I mean, TCU was pretty dominant throughout the Big 12 this year. Only had that stumble block in the Big 12 championship game against K-State. But because they were undefeated for so long, that's why they got in. Pretty much the underdog story for this year. Now they get to take on Georgia in terms of who is going to be the national champion. And I went with Georgia. However, I thought it would be closer than what it was. I thought TCU would jump out early once again, surprising Georgia, catching them off guard. I figured TCU was going to jump up 21-0. Boy, was I wrong. It was too much Georgia early. They jumped up 10-0 before TCU answered back, and that was it. Georgia ended up scoring 55 unanswered points. Bennett counted for 6 touchdowns. This is the largest margin of victory in college bowl history. One of the biggest margins of victory in a championship game history. It was almost unparalleled to think of this one. TCU just did not look right at all. Duggan had no opportunity to really set up and throw too much. When he did, they got intercepted. Georgia was just doing everything they possibly could. The TCU defense was all out of whack. They were outskilled, outmuscled, outplayed. This was an embarrassment for TCU. This is not the TCU Horned Frogs that we've seen throughout the year. Now, note they do have a lot of close games, but when you go conference play, you do have some close games. Georgia had the same thing happen to them through the season. So I don't look at the conference aspect too much when it comes to these type of matchups, because it's just, you look at the total aspect. How do these teams finish? How do they come back? You saw how Georgia came back from an upset bid for Missouri. And seeing what TCU's gone into hostile territory in the other stadiums out there in Texas and beat them. I mean, they went to Austin and beat the Longhorns, which is not an easy task to do. But Georgia is the lone dog on top. They're the king of the hill. Back national champions. Last one to do that was Nick Saban. Could this start something for Kirby Smith and Georgia? Possibly. Nick Saban's not going to be coaching much longer, so sooner or later Alabama will fall off the radar a little bit. But we'll see what happens. This is Bennett's last year. I mean, he's 25 years old, finally heading to the pros. Older than some of these starting quarterbacks right now in the playoffs. We'll see where he lands. I mean, he's not very highly touted, but it's kind of weird. He is a very he's not really a young man, so it's probably why he's not considered higher. But very he's smart. He's athletic. He can do what you need to do. So we'll see how that one happens. But yeah, Georgia is going to be a powerhouse for years to come, as long as Kirby Smart keeps the program going the right direction. As long as he's able to replenish his cupboard every year. That's what blue bloods do. Every time they lose a class of students, they got another class right behind them to take their place. Also, this transfer portal, you can bring in some big talent that way as well. We'll see how, what happens next year. I think Georgia will probably be, the favorite number one in top 25 next year. He's definitely going to be up there because there's, they set the president. I didn't give him much of a shot this year. I didn't think they were going to be there. I thought it would be Alabama, Ohio State in the national championship, and only Ohio State made the playoffs. So we'll see how that one is. But yeah, that was the last game, and I ended up going 20-22. I lost quite a few of those games, but it is what it is. There's not much you can do about that one, and a wild ride to say the least. And this upcoming season will be the last one of the 14 format before they expand to 12. I will get a video out kind of showcasing what the 12-team format will look like since the inception of the college football playoff, and kind of look at, okay, some of the naysayers go, that's going to be a bunch of 3-loss teams. Yeah, a few years, yeah, you did have some, but that was how the season played out. You had more 3-loss teams than anything else. And they have some, oddball years in there. But let me know down below which game surprised you the most. As you saw all the scores scroll across, there was a couple of games I didn't call, like the LSU's demolishing Purdue. I didn't cover that one at all. I mean, that was one lopsided game. The national championship game was just 2 points more than that. How did your school do in this bowl season? Yeah, the two teams I really follow with Notre Dame and Illinois, they both won. I didn't pick neither one of them, and one of them actually ended up winning. Air Force, I didn't pick them either, and they ended up winning. UTSA, I didn't pick, they ended up losing. So those are kind of four programs I kind of somewhat follow here and there. I'm more a Notre Dame fan, followed by Illinois. And then I always give Air Force love because I spent 20 years with Air Force, so of course I'm going to give them some love. And we'll just kind of see how things kind of play out. Just let me know down below. While you're there, just you can hit that thumbs up once again. You can go share this video with friends and family. Really help out the channel out. Once you subscribe, make sure you click that bell icon and turn on notifications so next time I post any more content on my channel. And I will see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.